Good evening, everyone. Uh, this is Jana again. We're doing our monthly talk. So I welcome everyone. Tonight, I will not be able to see any comments or um, be able to interact because I had a little problem with the computer. So I'm using my phone and I'm a little more, so I have less options. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, later we'll be able to answer those. All right. So I will begin tonight's meeting with the reading from the book Our Daily Bread, and it's message number 42, Forever Alive. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are badly mistaken. Jesus, Mark 12:27. Considering established conventions with regards to our references to spiritual life, we usually utilize the word death in our common conversation. However, it is imperative to understand it not as a cessation, but rather as a transformation of life. Spiritually speaking, we are only familiar with a terrible type of death, that of the conscience blackened and evil, tortured by remorse or paralyzed in the piercing precipice that borders the path of insensitivity and of crime. The time has come for us to recognize that we are all alive in the eternal creation. By virtue of withholding this knowledge from humankind, grave errors have been committed. For this reason, the Catholic Church created in its theology an artificial heaven and hell. Diverse evangelical Protestant groups, more attached to the word, believe that the physical body, material clothing of the spirit, would one day return from the grave, violating the principles of nature. Also, numerous spirits believe us to the laboratory phantoms or flickering forms, vague and ethereal, wandering indefinitely. Whom whomsoever goes to the grave continues working, and here as well as there. Disorder only exists for the rebellious. In the surface of the earth or beyond its limits, we continue very much alive. Do not forget, therefore, that the discarnates are neither magicians nor fortune tellers. They are simply brothers who continue in the struggle to improve and perfect their spirit. We encounter death only in the paths to evil, where the shadows impede the glorious vision of life. Let us guard the lesson of the gospel and never forget the fact that our Father is God of the living immortals. So, dear friends, this is message 42, Forever Alive, from the book Our Daily Bread, from Chico Xavier and Emmanuel. And I think it's a really good message that goes with our topic tonight. So I'm going to do a little prayer so we can all, start together. So, Heavenly Father, Master Jesus, we thank you for another opportunity. And Father, help us tonight so we can bring the message of the spirits in a simple way, but a way that we all can grasp a little bit more in the immensity of your work. Father, bless all our friends and family members. We welcome everyone for tonight's talk. Thank you, Lord, and so be it. So, dear friends, unfortunately, I can't see if you guys are on. I hope you are. And I can only see myself, and because of the technical difficulties. But anyway, we will be able to go on and have our talk. So tonight's topic is about the origin and nature of spirits. And I will use some questions of the Spirits book. I'm not going to use all of the questions because it would be too much information and we only have little time. But we are going to use from chapter 1 from second part, and it's the chapter about spirits, and questions go from 76 to 95. So we are going to take, a few questions here and there. And then we're also going to use from chapter 11, from second part also, questions 606 and 7. So if you guys want to make notes, and then later kind of read the whole thing because it's very important information. But going into the topic tonight, talking about the origin and nature of spirits, I made a little note for myself as an introduction, and I will read it to you guys. So we're going to see of some information about the origin and nature of spirits. This topic, we can only grasp some understanding because this is such a deep and important topic. And I myself, do not have the capacity to fully understand everything. So I will bring to you guys what I was able to understand, and hopefully together we can, later talk about and then uh, change, exchange ideas and perspectives. So when Kardec was gathering all the information to put together what we have today, the Spiritist doctrine, the good spirits told Kardec many times that, at times, from time to time, Kardec would ask certain questions, and the spirits would say that our level of evolution and understanding was not enough to understand the whole truth, meaning, more information than they were giving to us. Or at other times, they would say, for lack of better words, we have to use this as an analogy. And I really like to say those two things because when we're reading the Spirit's book, many times you will see Kardec asking one question, and then when he is not completely satisfied, he would go on and ask another question. The same question in a different way, or he would do sub questions as we're going to see tonight. Today, I hope to contribute by connecting some important points, and together we can continue to study and learn each day a little bit more. So, in the Spirit's book, we learn a very important rule. We learn an important rule to identify. So, here I'm going to go in straight to the point, okay? I will bring two informations and then we're going to go deeper to learn which one, it is. And so since we're talking about spirits, when spirits were created, the origin, the nature, I wanted to bring to you that we identify the intelligent principle, and so we have to learn how we can make a difference between one another. That's what I'm trying to say. So the intelligent principle and the individualization of the intelligent principle. Because when we're reading the Spirit's book, there are points where they will be asking about spirits with a lowercase. And then there are other times when we see spirits with a uppercase. And it's important that we understand why there are those differences. Many translations not always follow this. Sometimes you may have a translation that all the word spirits are with uppercase or lowercase. Um, so what I always like to do is, if I am not sure about that translation, I go into Kardecpedia, where they have the French edition. And then I go in there and I kind of check it out and see, how it's written. And many times this has helped us in our study groups when we are not so sure about. So when we are talking about the spirit with a lowercase, we are talking about the intelligent principle, meaning the beginning of the intelligence principle. And there is a timeline. If you think about a timeline, from the creation to the point we are. So let's, if you can keep in mind a timeline from when we were as an intelligent principle, and then here we are today as a human being. And then the individualization of the intelligent principle is when the intelligent principle reached the point where the first human beings were incarnated. And I remember when I was studying, I was invited to be part of a seminar, maybe I would say 6 or 7 years ago. And one of my topics was to talk about the spirit. And I remember, doing that study and thinking about, that we were all created simple and ignorant. And at that time, my understanding was that when God created us simple and ignorant, um, no, ignorant as not knowing, in my mind at that time, how I could understand was that we were all created, so as humans, all at the same time, or we will see that in different times. And then the more I studied, the more we, have our study groups and exchange ideas, I got to learn that actually it's talking about the intelligent principle. But at that time, my understanding was that narrow, which today is still narrow, but it's a little bit bigger than it was. And so, but then you may be thinking, where can I find this information in the codification? Because Jana saying, spirit with lowercase is one thing, and then spirits with uppercase is another thing. So if you go into, there are two questions that are very important. I'm going to kind of go over, quick, so you just get a feeling of how, and there is another thing. When we are doing a study using Spirit's book or the gospel, I see myself at times making all my notes. And then I realize that at times I begin from the end, and then I go to the middle, and then I go to the beginning. And In my mind, all these questions are interconnected. So there is no way I could only come here and bring information from questions 76 to 95 because there are answers already answered that will complement what we are seeing. And so on question 25 on the Spirit's book, this is where we're going to get the information of how, you know, we come with the idea of a spirit with lowercase and spirit with uppercase. So 25, is a spirit independent of matter, or is it only a property of matter as color are properties of light and as sound is a property of air? They are distinct from each other, but the union of spirit and matter is necessary to enable matter to act intelligently. Is this union equally necessary for the manifestation of spirit? So here's an important question. So the matter and spirit, is it necessary, this union, for the manifestation of the spirit? And it says the answer. This is a sub question. For you, it is necessary because you are not built to perceive a spirit apart from matter. Your senses are not formed to do so. And then there is, like a note. In this section, we understand a spirit with a lowercase to mean the intelligent principle rather than the entities designated by the name. So, whenever we talk about the intelligent principle, it means that we have God, we have the material element, and then we have the spiritual element. So, anything that it's matter comes from the matter element of matter, and then the spirit comes from the intelligent principle. And then on question 23, it asks, what is the spirit? And the answer is the intelligent principle of the universe. I was listening this afternoon to Simão Pedro, and he made a comment about something that I was like, oh, I never thought this way. So when we talk about spirits being the intelligent principle of the universe, because it's not only of Earth, but it's from the universe. And then he said, so when we think about the intelligent principle, we have on question number 1, when it asks, what is God? And it says, it is the supreme intelligence. So God is the supreme intelligence, and God created us. So we are, what God created, and from whom we got this intelligence. Talking about, the intelligent principle of the universe. It comes from God. And I thought it was so beautiful because, and many times we have a hard time understanding. So, how does that happen? How does the spirit connect to the body? And we understand that the perispirit plays a big role in this. But we're not going to go into the perispirit information because we're going to see this in the future. But this is something that, it's good for us to know how does that work? I remember a little while ago when I was doing a talk about abortion. And as I was getting ready, and I saw a movie, I saw a few documentaries, and I read what we have in the Spiritism. And I remember one night going to bed, and then I thought, I still cannot understand how, because we are co creators, As human beings, we are co-creators. And then I thought, how can from such a small, tiny piece of matter from a man and a woman come together and then the spirits connected? Because I was trying, I was reading the question that talks about when, there is life, and then it says since the conception. And then I was like, how can I understand that? And I tried and I couldn't. And then all of a sudden, when I went to bed, I remember falling asleep and seeing images. I could see the egg and the sperm, and then I could see the next, phase where it goes from 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and so on. And then I thought, how is that happen? Like that life comes in. So when we are talking about the origin of spirit, then we understand that the spirit comes from one source. But the spirit is not the body. This body that we have, it's only the envelope of the spirit. And then on, because many people may mistaken, oh, we are this. So that's the importance of knowing the spirit has lived before and it will continue to live, just like the message we read today saying forever alive. And then continuing to, bring the information about between the lowercase and uppercase. On question 79 of the Spirit's book, we have the question that says, since there are two general elements in the universe, in example, the intelligent element and the material element, could we say that spirits are formed from the intelligent element, while inert bodies are formed from material element? So after Kardec has asked already many questions, he comes to this one. So can we say that spirits are formed from the intelligent element? And here is still with the lowercase. And then in the questions, the answer is obviously spirits with a capital letter are individualizations of the intelligent principle. So here is an important point. If we don't understand, because we can't grasp, the spirits, even the spirits that were doing, the work with Kardec, bringing the information, they say, we don't know how it happens. We don't know when and in time that we were each created. But we can start to understand the here and there. And knowing this about, the difference of a spirit as the intelligent principle, that we have a way where we work in different kingdoms, we will see that, we have the three kingdoms, the vegetable, animal, and human. And once we get to that point, we will see deeper into, as far as information about it. And then when they say the spirit says, obviously, spirits are individualizations of the intelligent principle, just as bodies are individualizations of the material principle. It's the time and manner of this transformation we do not know. So in point in time, there are, everything is evolving. If we look today to our, outside, the animals, the plants, they have the intelligent principle. But we also learn that when, so let's say us, were in that stage, it was not here on earth as of now. Unfortunately, we don't have too much time to go deeper into. But you can pick from chapter 3 on the Gospel according to Spiritism. The Spirit's teachings talks about, the highly highly evolved worlds and primitive worlds. And here, in one of the questions we're going to see also will bring us a little bit more information. So starting from this point, understanding who's the intelligent principle, and once we become humans in our first phases of humankind, not today after, being evolved and probably many millenniums from now, we're still going to be, more evolved. And then parting from, going from this point from 25 and 20 and 79, we already have, some good information. So now I'm going to on question number 80. So the question is the creation of spirits continuous, or did it only occur at the beginning of time? So I already kind of spoke about it. And the answer is it's continuous. It's continuous, which means that God has never ceased creating them. So all of us, we have no idea when and where we were created. Chances are we were created at different times. But even if we were created together, some of us, each one evolves in a different pace. The question is, are we being good children, obeying the laws? But here we're talking more about the natural laws, the laws of God, which we have on the third book, the third part of the book. And so, how is this, that God continuously creates? Sometimes I stop and I look to the sky, and then I know that out there are a huge number of other worlds, other galaxies. I know that there are spirits. Some are in our stage of evolution. Some are in the beginning process of evolution. And some are reaching that pure point of being pure. And still, when we look around Earth, we have so much information. We have evolved so much. And we still cannot respect each other. Because we learn when, as spirits, as children of God, we are here not only to evolve ourselves, but to be in contact with the ones that God has entrusted in our family. There is one question here. I'm not sure. I don't think I'll read that one, but it talks about how we come up, with this, that we are children of God. And then the spirits give the example when a man creates something for, useful, they will oftentimes, call, oh, these are my children, because they work so hard to invent something. And since we are God's creation, we are as of, children of God. Now, I will go back to question 76. So we kind of had a, introduction talking about the intelligent principle, the individualization of the intelligent principle. And now the question 76 is, how may we define spirits? And then the answer is, we can say that spirits are intelligent beings of creation. But this is the second part of the answer is something that I love the most, because this is where it comes, what I just told you guys, when, I look to the skies and I know there is something beyond, and we can't simply, see with our bare eyes. So we can say that spirits are intelligent beings of creation. They populate the universe beyond the material world. So the spirits populate beyond what we can see. There are spirits everywhere. We learn that they are everywhere. And the question is, how are we connecting to them? Is it through our good actions, or is it by our lower passions? Because this connection between spirits and spirits incarnated comes by how we live, how we do things. And I can only imagine, if we were able to do what our brother Jesus told us, how far we have gone. We would have gone already. So here on question 77, the question is, are spirits being distinct? Are spirits beings distinct from the divinity, or are they only emanations or proportions of the divinity? The reason why they are called the children of God. And then it's interesting how they answer, heavens, like they are God's work. And this is where, I just gave you the example of when a man builds a machine, they are not the machine, but they're the creation of it. And here is where, we are God's children because we are products of the divine work. And here we go to the next question, 78. Did spirits have a beginning, or have they existed from all eternity like God? So we have seen in the previous questions or previous chapters where Kardec will ask about this. But then, of course, he asks it again. And then they say, if spirits had no beginning, they would be equal to God. On the contrary, they are God's creation and subject to the divine will. And then the Spirit says, but we know nothing as to when and how spirits were created. And towards the end of the question, the answer they even add, nevertheless, when and how each of us was created individually, I will repeat, no one knows. It's a mystery. So, friends, we want to know how we started, or how, when we look at someone, we want to know the history. And the spirits tell us that, right now, they don't know, we don't know. But that's okay, because it's part of the process. Spiritism came around the 1800s, 1850s and going. The Spirit's book was published, in 1857. So if we think about this information today, if it was here 500 years ago, we would not be able to understand. We could grasp a little bit because I am sure that everyone that's listening, when they read a passage, it can be from Spirit's book, the gospel, you read one time, and then after some time you read the same thing again, and then you go like, how I never saw this, or how our perspective broadens, and then we are able, you know, to take another veil. This is the one thing I really like when the Spirit says, that Spiritism is like, every information, it's like taking a veil of your eye. And so you can see better, you can understand better. And talking about the spirits, we don't know much about it. That's the reality. We can only try to understand using the codification, using other books that will bring, more of a daily basis, like Andrew Lewis. All his work brings information of how, the spirits act, how the spirits continue to live in the spiritual world. And here we are today, trying to get just a little bit more information of how the origin and nature, how we started, what is the nature. I want to bring to on before I move on to the 607, I want to bring you guys on question 82. 82 says, is it correct to say that spirits are immaterial? Because we always have that, what is material, what is not. If we think about, certain objects, or we could use the example of water. When water is frozen, it becomes solid. When it's melted, it's liquid. And when it, let's say if you have boiling water and then you have the vapor. So we have different stages of water, and they're all water. So that's how, water goes up, and then we got the rain, and then we got solid water. And so is the spirit as far as the evolution that goes through. And so let's see what the spirits tell us about being immaterial. Is it correct to say that spirits are immaterial? The answer is, how can we define something when we have no terms for comparison? So this is where, when I spoke in the beginning, that the spirits would, tell Kardec. How can we define something when we have no terms for comparison? And when we only have an insufficient language at our disposal? Can one who is born blind define light? Immaterial is not the right word. Incorporeal would be more precise, because you should understand that since it is a creation, a spirit must be something. So immaterial, but incorporeal, it's a more correct word. Meaning immaterial means, oh, it's not material, you can't see, but it's still a spirit, is a fine matter. A spirit is quintessentialized matter. Thus, you have no analogies for describing it. It is also so etherealized that your senses cannot perceive it. And then Kardec added, a note that says, we say that spirits are immaterial because their essence differs from everything we label as matter. And then on question 85, we have the question, which of the two, the spirit world or the corporeal one, is the principal one in order of things? So what do you guys think? Which one, is the principal one? The spirit world or the corporeal world? The answer is the spirit world. It is pre-existent to and will survive everything else. So there is no doubt that the spirit world is the principal one. So when we think about, the years we live incarnated compared to the time that we are in the spirit world, it's like when we pass away and we go back to the spirit world, it's like we are going home. So here it's that stage, it's that school to help us, evolve each day, to help us put in practice what we learn. But I want to now go in the question 407. No, it's not 407. 607, sorry. Because when we're talking like to understand how we are, we came to the point where we are spirits as humans. So the spirit needs the body in order to give, be able to having the perispirit that connects, those the two elements. So we're able to be here. Here comes a very interesting question, and the answer is even more. And I would tell you guys to read both questions, 606 and 607. But I will only use part of 607 to kind of bring another, input as of from the time. So let's say, we are not going to use, we're not going to use dates or nothing, but let's imagine in our timeline, okay, God just created a principal intelligence, meaning, the spirit with lowercase s. And then that timeline goes on. And here we have now the first incarnation of the spirit with uppercase in a human body. We know through science that human bodies have evolved. And when we look into, the past, and then we have all those, they find, the skeletons, and they measure and they compare. They say, this is from so and so. It's such a beautiful thing because we can see how much as humans we have come. And then on question 607, the Kardec asks the question. It has been stated that the human soul at its origin resembles the state of human infancy in the corporeal life, that its intelligence is only beginning to unfold, and that it's preparing itself for life. They even say C number 190. So the question is, where does the soul accomplish this primary phase? Because remember, we're just trying to understand a little bit more. So now Kardec, wants to understand, where did the soul accomplish this primary phase? And the answer is, in a series of existences preceding the period you call humanity. And then the sub-question is even more interesting, and it's a big answer. So I'm only going to bring, a little bit of it. Then it would seem that the soul had been the intelligent principle of the lower beings of creation, correct? So in this case here, the lower beings of creation means, the other kingdoms, the vegetable and the animal. And then we come, to the next stage, which is the humanity. So the answer is, haven't we stated that everything in nature is linked together and tends toward unity? It is in those beings whom you are far from knowing about entirely that the intelligent principle is developed. So let's give a little stop here. So everything is linked and everything works towards unity. And the beings we know, so when we observe a plant, a tree, an animal, we only know a very small part of it. That's what they're saying. You are far from knowing about entirely. And this is how now we're trying to know a little bit about the origin of the spirits. We could use the same phrase, you're far from knowing about entirely. But it's good, that we have the urge of learning, of understanding a little better. And then the next part of the answer is gradually individual. So it is gradually individualized and is prepared for life, as we have stated. So if we think about a seed, if you look at a tree, and then we cannot say that a tree was a seed once, but we can say that the seed had all what would be necessary when it grows to become a tree. So if we kind of use this analogy as of the intelligent principle being like the seed, and then throughout evolution, transformation, one day we become spirits with a capital letter, it would be an interesting analogy, simple, and a simple way to see. In a certain way, which is, this what I just said, now we have the answer will, bring more information. In a certain way, it is a preparatory work, like of the germination, after which after the intelligent principle undergoes transformation and becomes a spirit. It is then that the period of humanity begins for it, and with it the consciousness of its future, the distinction between good and evil, and the responsibility of its acts. So after we go through that germination, evolution, then we become to the point where now we have a conscious about the future, and then we become responsible because we start to learn about good and evil. I want to, there is a, if I'm not mistaken, it's 1864. So the Spiritist Revenue, 1864. I will double check because I'm using my phone and I can't check that. But there is a very interesting article that Kardec is answering questions that talks about good and evil. And it says, so how can we define when it's the point of, okay, doing this is considered, not a crime against God's law, but now it is. And Kardec gives a pretty interesting answer, and it will tell us that, for each spirit, depending on the development, depending how we choose to do things, it may take a good number of incarnation we are until we have the responsibility between our actions, good and evil. So when I'm done with the talk, which will be pretty soon, I will make a note where I will write down this information. So you guys, if you guys want, you can read it. And then now, going towards the end, I just want to finish saying that no matter what we do, or no matter how we do things, if you believe it or not, that you were created as an intelligent principle that has evolved and became a spirit, we all at one point will understand more. And I would like to say that all the questions in the spirit books are worth reading and being studied. So when you read one question, one after the other, it's really interesting. And then comes the point where you remember about an answer and you go back and then you now put together, it's like a puzzle. Or I also like to think how when we're doing needlework, like the cross one, and when we look on the bottom, you have all those threads that looks like it makes no sense. But then when you turn and you see the beautiful artwork. And this is how I see, spiritism to me with the informations. It's like bringing light to those moments when we don't know how. So, dear brothers and sisters, I will end our talk now. And I thank every single one for being here with us tonight. Thank you.